Good evening, folks, and welcome to June 6, 2024 SchezzWho show. And I want to begin by shouting out several important folks who helped SchezzWho along. And the first is you. Make sure you watch this show. Make sure you subscribe to this channel, and make sure you even comment and like on this show, because we're only going to grow with your participation. And of course, I also want to shout out my wife, Andrea. There she is right there, who is in need of praise. She's the greatest, and I love her. I miss her right now because I'm out of state. And her efforts to even create this channel are not going to be forgotten. I also want to give a shout out to Positive Vibes, who Mr. Sego Varner, that helped me along this journey to become a show doer of politics in the Hampton Roads area. So make sure that you look up Positive Vibes. He can help you with a lot of good things. And if you're feeling hungry tonight, I don't want you to forget about Ellen's Homestyle and Barbecue, of course, because she's a good friend. She has two locations, one in Portsmouth, one in Virginia Beach, and she has fantastic food. So if you're hungry to eat and you're near Ellen's Homestyle and Barbecue, you know where to go. Now, I also want to shout out Dennis Hooperson over at Southern Greenbrier in Chesapeake. They've been good friends over there. He's the one to look for to help you out with looking for a car. And that's it for my shout outs tonight. And I want to bring to the emphasis of this series and this show. I call this series that I want to start the Community Accountability Series. The first guest would be Portsmouth Councilman DeAndre Barnes. Now, I reached out to him on Facebook. He signaled interest in doing this. I got his cell number, and we began putting this date together. Then I adjusted the start time so he could be able to pick someone up after the show and bumped it ahead 30 minutes. Earlier the day of the show, I got heard that he needed to adjust the date because roughly at the same time as the show would be a civic league that he wanted to attend. So I adjusted it to tonight. After that date, I told him to hit up a community event that was happening in Portsmouth this past Saturday, and he sent me a picture of himself at a basketball game, which showed that that's where he was at. And ever since, I haven't heard a response from him as I'm trying to clarify that Thursday is going to be the show that he does. So tonight we're just going to go on with the show without him. So the aim of this series is to have candidates and incumbents not only on SchezzWho and being addressed by me, but being questioned by other community activists from the city that those candidates are hailing from and other interested parties. So tonight, I still have, and we'll get on Councilman Barnes if he happens to show up, or if he would like to come on again, we'll do it again. But we're still going to welcome any and all candidates to be part of the series, because that is going to be a very interesting format. And I also want to bring on a panel tonight because they definitely still want to address Councilman Barnes, or at least the topic of. So I'm going to bring on Sergio O'Neill, Nina Francis, and Nakia Miller. And I don't see her on the stage at the moment, but when she hops in, I will add Nakia shortly. So, Ms. Nina, Mr. Sergio, let's. How are you guys doing tonight? And I hope you're doing all well in Portsmouth, or because I'm out of state right now.
Good.
It's good. How are you doing, Sergio? And you're muted.
We can't hear you,
Sergio.
I'm sorry. I'm actually at one of the Portsmouth's newest establishments, Time on the River, and it is a beautiful scenery out here. I am just enjoying this vibe, and I definitely wanted to make sure that I put a positive side of Portsmouth in the background. So tonight I chose Time on the River, and we're going to keep on rolling.
Positive Portsmouth. That's the way I want to spin it. Now, we wanted to have this show be Councilman Barnes getting questions from us. So before we go into what we might have asked him or topics that we want to bring up, what are your initial thoughts on Councilman Barnes? Let's begin with Ms. Nina.
So I voted for him. Like, he was on city council. Well, he was on school board. I voted for him there. Then he went to city council. I voted for him there. And the whole thing was like he was supposed to be for the children. But as time going by, I didn't see him do anything for the children. I saw him kind of promoting himself. So, yeah, now I'm
It's probably a very good way to put it. I feel about, for a lot of people all over the various cities, the state of Virginia, and national politics too. So, Mr. Sergio, what are your initial thoughts, or maybe not initial, but thoughts you've had over the past several years about DeAndre as the person?
So I want to say this, and I want to be very clear. We've had a lot of our elected officials and appointed officials that have been of older generations, and I respect that wholeheartedly. When DeAndre first ran, I was very intrigued because of his youthfulness and appearance that he could be one to kind of bridge that gap between what some consider old and what consider new, and what others consider as new. And as time goes on, you look at some of the methods and the theatrics and the overall foundation of what he's done. And you kind of see like there's a disconnect, and there's a hunger for things of a manipulative mindset, of a narcissistic mindset. And I want to bring the reality of the situation to voters in Portsmouth so they can know, everything isn't always what it seems to be. We've had enough of the pomp and circumstance, the good talk game, the kissing baby game, but we have no action and no accountability, and that's why I stand with him.
So let's begin. What is the first thing on his record that comes to mind that may be questionable, Mr. SchezzWho?
I'm sorry, the first thing that comes to mind for me is, let's go here. Look at Portsmouth's history with former employees, as city employees, suing the city of Portsmouth. Case in point, Miss Angel Jones, former city manager, was forced to resign. DeAndre had hands in that, and he's not willing to admit what his real intent there. He's trying to. He puts it in a perspective of questioning performance and questioning, effectiveness. But we all know the real reasoning behind it was she didn't bow to his will, and he had three other, lack of better words, easily manipulated mindsets to go along with them. So he had a majority in that, which is sad and unfortunate. And now look at the position the city is in, is what we're going to pay Miss Jones, and rightfully so, a portion of her salary, and to do absolutely nothing for the city, as a higher individual, which I wholeheartedly agree she should be paid, because the time and effort she put into driving this city in a new direction, only to be ousted on some manipulative mindsets, is very disheartening, very disrespectful, and very discouraging to the citizens of Portsmouth who put their time and effort into electing representatives that should be doing the best will of the ones that put them there.
Would you agree on a similar mindset, Ms. Nina, on Councilman Barnes and city employees?
So I'm gonna take it further. Let's start when he first got there, and he had Woodard, his sidekick, and they all of a sudden, out of the blue, Woodard says, "I nominate Danny Meeks as the city manager." Danny Meeks hadn't submitted a application, so like, how he even want to be the city manager? In fact, when I questioned Councilmember Barnes, about this whole Danny Meeks thing, he blocked me on Facebook. So that's where it began for me. Like, number one, Danny Meeks ain't even submitted an application. How you gonna nominate somebody and you don't even know if they want the job or not? And then y'all voting. So how he even wanted the job? Then you go to Angel Jones. So fine, you get rid of Angel Jones. Then you get the old police chief as the city manager. Like, I know she was an okay police chief, which I had a problem with, because she quit that job saying racism, but you at the top position of the police force. Ain't you supposed to be changing it? Instead, you ran. Now you my city manager. It just didn't make sense for me. So his whole record when it comes to city managers is skeptic for me. So I would kind of really need him to explain some of these decisions that he made if he want to change my mind.
Did we touch on Tanya Chapman?
Yeah, that's
What was his role with Tanya Chapman?
police chief. She was the police chief.
Yeah, Sergio, what was his role on that?
So he wanted for the former police chief to be the city manager. He incited a record of, he said, her background or whatever that was in, government or whatever, local government. But let's be honest, the role of police chief is different than the role of city manager, right?
Yes.
If it had to been a case of anything law enforcement in Portsmouth, by all means, chief of police experience, law enforcement experience, whatever, by all means. But there is a vast difference in between the two. You have a position which is singular to one department versus a position that is multiple into all departments of the city. And you got to think about the level of experience between the two, right? Budgeting for one thing. You budget for one department versus budgeting for all departments of the city, right? So there's a system of checks and balances that's different. Your staff might have, as a city police chief, 200, 250. As a city manager, your staff has thousands, right? So there's a different level of experience that go, and it's more than that. But there's a lot of, varying degrees. It's like comparing apples to oranges. And I'm going to put my own self in this category. I've ran multi-million-dollar restaurants, right?
Yeah.
Could I be a CEO of a corporation, restaurant corporation? Absolutely not. Because guess what? My experience level stops at operations manager. I have never been a CEO. I've never been a CFO. I've never been a COO. I've never been an owner. So when it comes to the things of that nature, I know my role and I know how to stay in it, right? Now, if I want to grow then I have to do the work and get the education and experience in those roles before I even go and apply for those roles, right? I don't believe our former police chief ever went that route to get exposed to things of encompassing the role of city manager. All I've seen is police chief. Let's just put it out there. Maybe am I missing something? I don't know, but I'm just going to tell you from what I've seen.
Look at her college degree. Remember she made that speech? I went to college. Yeah.
As if that's enough. Now, we could travel around Portsmouth. Anywhere we go, we're liable to see a Councilman DeAndre Barnes sign and reelect him. Ms. Nina, do you have any concerns about the signs themselves and maybe the money behind them?
Yes, because they're everywhere. Those large signs are not cheap. Yet when you go to VPAC, he got $947 there, and he's had that $947 since his first campaign. So help me understand who's paying for these signs. Even if you get in-kind donations, you're supposed to report that. But it's not reported. So who is paying for these signs that you don't want us to know is paying for your signs?
Do you feel the same, Sergio?
So again, that's the real mindset behind the investigative part of Nina that I'm seeing, and I love that. I'm going to give her praise, because guess what? At the end of the day, my thought process wasn't who was paying for the sign. I really ain't care, because guess what? Some dummy, somebody is paying for those signs, right? And it's whatever, that's their choice, that's their right as whoever. But at the same time, too, let's be honest. If we're going to go behind policy, procedure, and ethics, then by right, it should be reported. Every other candidate that I've seen has gone to the extreme of making sure that their finances are reported as it should. I have ran for office. I have put in my position to run for office before, and I know how that goes. I've seen that site. It doesn't take much to report those things. He's had other issues with doing his job as far as reporting those things. So I don't know. Maybe he has somebody that needs to help him report those things. I don't know. Maybe he needs that position filled on his campaign, because apparently he doesn't know that he's required to report those things per election policy, per campaign policy, per law. Maybe he doesn't know. Maybe, as a lot of things he doesn't know, apparently, because I've seen his positions on, how much he questions our city attorney, who by right, I would have to give it to her. She has put up with more than she should have put up with him not knowing his job. You know what I'm saying? I get it, but she's trying to educate him. I get it. Miss Graham Williams, God knows she is trying to educate him day by day, every step of the way in his position, and he still don't get it. But I digress. But I'm gonna keep it straight up. He does need to learn those policies and procedures and reporting, so people can know where his money is coming from. And I'm quite sure what his thought process is. He can run this campaign like he ran his sports organization and do what he wants to do. He's not the president of the electoral board. He doesn't make the policy and procedures around elections. And that's that.
Exactly. I remember as a treasurer at the Virginia Beach Progressive Caucus, that's a borderline quarterly type of report that I need to make known to the state office. And I was doing the same thing when I was running for council in Virginia Beach in 2020. It needed to be frequent. It needed to be accurate. Also, I'm getting fined. So here's the thing. If he's, as Ms. Nina points out, rarely updating at all his VPAP totals, that must mean that the election officials aren't getting the right information from DeAndre himself. Or at least that's the illusion. So that would be worth uncovering more if we're able to find out down the lines, which would have been great if we were able to ask him that literally right here and now. We would also probably ask him why it's 2024. And recently he's putting forth a summer camp free of charge to certain Portsmouth kids, which on his face sounds okay. But Nina might point out, why wasn't that offered in 2023 or 2022 when he wasn't running, or something to that effect? Wouldn't you say that?
Yes, because all of a sudden, magically, my constituents said they wanted to go to the camp for free, or why can't they go to the camp for free? Well, I'm quite sure this ain't the first year your constituent was wondering why they got to pay for this summer camp. So magically, all of a sudden this year, though, we putting forth some effort. All of a sudden this year, we care about summer jobs for Portsmouth children. Like what I voted for you for all them years ago should have been when you was talking about this stuff. But now, magically, when your job is almost to an end, you want to talk about it.
Do you feel the same, Mr. Sergio?
So let me be devil's advocate for a minute.
Yes.
Some years ago, Portsmouth's summer camp program was free. How I know, because I was an attendee. It was Summer Galaxy, and Portsmouth summer camp was free, right? So in more recent years, they went away with doing summer camp for free, whatever the case might be. And then all of a sudden, during the last council body, which included Paul Battle, DeAndre Barnes, Mark Whitaker, and Chris Woodard, that majority started arguing the point about free summer camps, right? And I wonder, I said, well, after all these years, like Nina pointed out, why all of a sudden now we want to bring it back? Because remember, some of you, they went away with it, and it was quiet as a church mouse as far as going away with it. It was whatever. Now we want to come back, but like Nina pointed out, it's an election year. So what little corners and crevices can we point out to make our name known, to say, hey, by the way, I'm worth voting back in. Can you only now, mind you, right? I'm quite sure DeAndre will benefit from some portion of another of that summer camp being free. I'm just gonna call it for what it is. That's just me. I'm gonna keep it real. He's going to benefit for some portion of another. But let's go hit her. Miss Elvira Johnson Williams pointed out at the last city council meeting that funding did not actually come from the city of Portsmouth. It came from the state of Virginia to allow the summer camp program to be free. So it wasn't a DeAndre thing at all. He just raised the issue knowing where that money was actually coming from. So DeAndre full well did not come out. First of all, let's keep it real. DeAndre didn't come out his pocket for not one single penny of that portion of that summer camp being free. Because let DeAndre would have had to pay for it, I guarantee you those parents would have still had to be paying for it one way or the other. Let's just keep it for where it's at. The state of Virginia made that possible. So DeAndre he kind of put his, let me make a point of something that's already going to be paid for and make it seem like I'm doing something to make people worth it. You get what I'm saying? To make people, let me pay attention to DeAndre. And like Nina said before, I did thank him for his effort. But let's keep it real. Let's keep it real. Let's make sure we highlight the full scope of the situation. Because one trick to maintaining power is old as time is to keep people poor and to keep people uneducated. And that's two things that he's done to make sure he maintains his voting base.
Now, would you also criticize, Mr. Sergio, that this seems very focused on recreational opportunities, but not, say, self-sufficiency or literacy or other types of efforts that might be great for him to do? Would you want him to do more?
So his argument regarding public housing and the conditions in public housing, a lot of that is, lack of recreation. And let me keep it real here too. For years and years and years, African Americans have been forced, quote unquote, into sports activities and all of that thing, because of genetically engraved athletic ability. But what are most athletes considered as today as performers? We don't want to limit our African Americans to just being labeled as performers in the athletic world. So what about, you don't like the conditions in public housing? Why not promote self-sufficiency? Because let me keep it real. I was born and raised in Alabama, right? Born on the floor in Alabama, Portsmouth record all day long. But make no mistake about it. My mother did not say, woe is me. Let me keep on with the state. Let me keep on with the city. Let me keep on under dependency of the public housing system. No, she went out and grew her base and kept on growing to get us out of the situation. So why not, as a council person, say, hey, look, I get what public housing is doing. It's providing a foundation. But what can the city do on our end and to say, hey, let's help them grow to the next level. Let's help them get self-sufficient. Let's help those residents become less dependent on the system. Because long as the system has them, they're under control, some sort of level. And you gotta think about it. Dependency breeds complacency. Long as they know that the state, the city, the federal government is going to keep paying their rent, their mindset is, I don't have to do anything to grow myself to the next level. What if those programs stop tomorrow? What are they going to do? Be homeless, be on the street, be dependent on somebody else. And we can't keep allowing that cycle. A hot dog and hamburger, which he's known for in the projects, is great when you're hungry. But what about the next day after that, the year from that, when you're still in that same position? Let's just keep it real. Like, what are we going to do, Conrad? Like, are we going to keep promoting the hot dog and hamburger syndrome? Or are we going to grow to the steak and filet mignon where we can grow self-sufficient and be able to buy those things on our own? You see what I'm saying?
I do see. And I want to shout out Andrea Dixon, of course, who puts that comment here on the screen. Hello, Andrea. Love you. Miss you. And can't wait to be back in Virginia. What has he done that is productive and prosperous for the city of Portsmouth? So, Ms. Nina, beyond just the idea of Parks and Rec, what can you recall something he's done that's really helped the local economy?
Besides make me laugh, I can't really think of anything. But he has brought out lawsuits, and he has I don't know, asked for a grill at a school. Maybe Sergio, no, because I can't think of something that he has transformed to a positive. Like, here's what bothers me. When he was running for school board, we had a conversation, right? And I was telling him, hey, because I'm a web developer and I was in the Navy, I was an IT. So I was telling him that the Security Plus or CompTIA certifications have no age limit. So why not take our school, pick a high school, I don't know. In 9th grade, they get A+ cert. In 10th grade, they get Network Plus cert. In 11th grade, they get Security Plus cert. And then on the 12th grade, they work on the system. That way, you get building a skill, you saving the school some money. And when you graduate from high school, you can get a government job. You making $50,000 right after high school. And he was like, yeah. And then like nothing. He got the job and nothing. All right, fine. City council. Right? I said, hey, DeAndre, I'm going to give him a second chance. You know, he failed me on that school thing, but we in city council now. Our children have nothing to do. Nothing. So, like, we got all these raggedy community centers, right? How about make a nice one? Keep it open till school, not school. What is it? The 11 p.m. when we gotta be in the house. Yeah. So keep it open and see if the parents of these children want to come and work in those community centers. That way, our children have something to do, and the parents are also engaged with their children. And you probably can save some money and lower some crime. Right? You're like, yeah. Guess what?
Didn't happen.
No.
Here's another thing. Wasn't even offered by him by any resolution. If he failed, that's one thing. But if he didn't try, that's another thing.
Yeah, but he can talk about basketball courts and pools and tracks. But not everybody plays tracks. Like, you know, we got so many other things. That's y'all like, why we got crime in Portsmouth? Because our children have nothing to do. We used to have dances. We used to have all these other things. What do they have now? Like, why not have...
It's Thursday. I don't know if they're doing a Sunset Thursday right now. Or is that next week or something like that?
Like, why don't they have cheerleading competitions here? Why don't they have, like, the dancing dog competitions here? Why don't they have, I don't know, video game competitions in various places? And you include those parents to watch the games and stuff. So they interact with their children. It's like I gave them so many interesting ideas and thoughts of including parents and children and fun stuff. And I never saw those ideas come out of his mouth.
I'm curious, Mr. Sergio, if you have had actual conversations with the councilman as well on similar fronts.
So I've had, and I'm going to go in a different direction on crime. You know, DeAndre has argued the point about, you know, poverty being one of the root causes of crime, and I get that. But however, you know, at the same time too, you know, then he also draws the blame to our police department. Oh, you know, what about our police department? They're not doing enough. You know, police department could be doing more. Yeah, you know, first of all, DeAndre has zero law enforcement experience ever. Let's just keep it 100. Nothing. He has done absolutely nothing to contribute to the tools in the toolbox for our law enforcement community. You know, so for him to kind of try to push that narrative that our police force isn't doing enough, but at the same time try to say, oh, well, you can't police your way out of crime. We get that. The police chief even knows that. But however, we will try to lay the blame on where the police department isn't doing enough. What could they do enough? Just the same way, what is PRH doing? What is him as a city council doing? As member doing absolutely nothing. But let's go here too. You know, we can play the blame game all day long, and we can say, oh well, X, Y, and Z is not doing it. But let's go as a council person. This is the thing. You know, you have to look at it from a 360 approach, right? Because your votes, your decisions, your thought processes affect this entire city, right? And his mindset is, let me play the blame game, the pity party, the play on emotions to get me promoted to the next level, to get him back in office. But the same body of people that he's constantly trying to make himself look like he's arguing for have been in the same position since he's been on school board and now since he's been on city council. So you have to bear the question of, but what is he really doing to help this situation move further?
Well, he
And
voted
when
to
you
raise
get
his
to the
pay.
meat, he want to increase his pay, but see, you know what? We said we weren't gonna go to personal, so I'm gonna leave that where it's at. But the newspaper ain't lying, and the court system ain't lying. Let's just put that out there, right? All I know is I'm not gonna pay for something I don't do. I've been in management for a while. I don't do what they call just because raises. I do performance raises. If you don't perform, you don't get a raise. I don't care if you've been in a position for 99 years. If you suck, you suck. Let's just keep it real. You won't be there for 99 years with me because you would have been gone after year one. I give people 12 months maximum, and then after that, they got to go. Sometimes a lot of times it's been shorter than that, but I've learned to give grace and give people a year instead of 2 weeks. So I try to get them where they at. But even at that, you know, as a city council person, do he need to make 43,000? I know 16-year-olds that work harder than make 43,000. He definitely should not make 43,000, not off our tax dollars. No sir, no ma'am, no ham, no turkey. Not, he need to make that same, what is it, 16, 17, whatever thousand it is, and keep on rolling with it. If you want to make a real salary, you need to go get a full-time job like all of us got, or multiple part-time jobs, or whatever the case might be. He definitely don't need to make 40-something thousand off of our tax dollars, and I'm gonna leave it at that.
Now, Ms. Nita, did it work for Bobby Scott in the past?
Yes, and that's what I'm trying to figure out. If you work for Bobby Scott, why you can't get a job? Because like that is like the number one. Like I would love to get a reference from Bobby Scott.
Yeah, he's a top 10 power structure in all of Congress, I think. And
you can't get no
he'll be very
job.
reputable. So I'm also curious here because we have another great comment by wife Andrea Dixon here. If he is reelected, what expectations do you have of Councilman Barbs to resolve, rectify, and handle any other issues that improve the city of Portsmouth? Ms. Nita, let's begin with you. You just said none. I'm like, none at all? Or is there like a possibly 0 to 5% or something like that?
Man, like, look, I'm like this. You've already showed me what you are, who you are, and what you're going to do. He's already showed us he ain't for us. He's not for nothing but himself. So, I don't know. He can surprise me. Anything's possible. I mean, I can't say nothing. Never. But I'm just not invested.
Well, I like that we're going at, he's not here as we had wanted him to be to defend himself against this, but we want this to be where a candidate can come into the fold and sort of mix it up with people one-on-one. And then we get to hear their expectations going forward. And Mr. Sergio, I want you to follow up on the same question. We've seen what he's done, both the school board and city council, and he wants city council again, another 4 years. What would you expect?
I want to say absolutely not. And I'm for one reason. First of all, his actions have put this city into further depth. right? As a city, we're paying severance packages out the yin yang. You know, you got to think about it. If we are a quote unquote cash strapped city, why would you put the city in position to have to pay out more money? And DeAndre isn't coming out of his pocket for none of the legal fees, for none of the or the other fees associated with all these city employee lawsuits. That's first and foremost. Second of all, as a responsible person, you know, accountability wise, you would think one would want to clean up their own backyard before they try to mess with anything city related. And to be honest with you, I'm not seeing none of that effort. The Commonwealth of Virginia agreed with that too, in a highly publicized court session. So I'm just not seeing it. So you can't convince me that you need to be there for another term if you haven't done those things on top of others. You know, you can't go around, and it's an accountability thing, and I'm gonna keep it real. I'm gonna bring my own stuff into this fold because that's just me. I'm in his position. However, my position is different because instead of me going to the system and saying, oh, I can't do such and such, making every excuse, the system came to me and said, you're doing too much. We have to pay you back because you are doing too much. Because I could work a full-time job on call. I'm on call literally when I get off my schedule, quote unquote schedule. I'm on call from that 1 minute after till the 1 minute before my next shift is supposed to start, right? So if anything happens, I still have to be responsible for my full-time job on top of everything else I do in the community. So if I can do it, he can do it too. That's not an excuse. So help me to understand the reasoning why you can't be held responsible for what you have created in this world and the situations you put yourself in. I mean, help me to understand it because I'm missing it because I can't find the excuse.
And here's another measure: absences. Doesn't he have a high note of absences from council meetings themselves?
Yes. So I'm like, if y'all giving yourselves raises, should you minus some money when you don't show up? Because he missed about 6. He had this moment where they told him he couldn't film on the diocese, and he said, "I ain't coming."
Hey, Conrad, can I further offer Nina for a second? I'm gonna put myself in this situation again. I'm a salary manager. I still have to clock in and out every day. That means my company tracks how many minutes, seconds, and hours I work per day. And it's down to a geofence, so I can't lie and say I'm at work when I'm not. So that means that regardless of my situations, my personal situations, if I'm going to perform my job, I'm on their clock. Literally. He has been on our clock as an elected official since he was put into their office. So if he's not going to do his work, then he don't need to be paid. He can make every excuse in the world. Oh, you know, I overslept. Oh, you know, I forgot, quote unquote. But he knows what time it is. You know, he knows what the situation is. He knows that in certain groups of people he don't want to put his feet in the fire with because we can't, my vote can't be bought. I'm good. I don't need no subsidy for DeAndre Bonds or nobody else elected or appointed for that matter. Mm-hmm. You get what I'm saying? And that's what he was looking for, was a place of comfort where he can make the manipulative mindset come to light, and it's not happening here. We're not putting up with it. We're not tolerating it.
Here's an interesting question. Do both of you believe that in many ways he substitutes his input at council meetings for being better at social media?
Yeah, I mean, like his whole thing is social media. He has his little social media meetings and he plays into that, but he has because of social media lost some voters because he was so cocky with it. Like, you gotta be careful how you talking to people. He'd be like, "Oh, you old," and that's how they used to do it. You don't talk to people. Old people are the people who vote. How you go?
Yeah, he told me once when I made a comment that all I do is talk about politics on his page. I'm like, you're a councilman. You talk about politics on your pages. In any case, Sergio, do you think that that's a supplement that he does? Like, it's a better appearance for him to be on Facebook and Twitter and stuff?
There's a term called Twitter fingers, right? It was a very popular term made in a rap song. You know, Meek Mill made it very popular. You have Twitter fingers all day long, but when it comes to speaking to the reality of situation in person, you know, hands on for real, that's not something he does. So you can be popular on social media all day long. See, one thing about me, and one thing I can say about Dina, and one thing I can say about you, we're all the same people we are on social media, as in real one-on-one, face-to-face conversation. I don't have to put on no front for nobody. But guess what? At the end of the day, I depend on me to make sure I'm good. You feel me what I'm saying? I'm not bowing to no corporation. I'm not bowing to nothing, to no group, no nothing. I'm Sergio, and that's that. So that's what I'm gonna be. If you can't be that person wherever you at on social media or in real life, then guess what? You have a problem within your own self that you need to address. So maybe that's something that he's struggling with. Is, you know, I could be whoever I portray to be on social media, but we all know the reality of the in-person situation. And guess what? That's where the rubber meets the road at. We are tired of social media, whatever you want to call it, politicians. We need action, real life action in the streets, in the community, in the neighborhoods, in the schools, or whatever they want to be at to get this situation rectified. We have constant situation after situation in our communities, and yet still all you get is the social media field. Ooh, look at what I'm doing to help rectify this. Did you come and hold that mother's hand when she lost her son? Did you come and grieve with that family when they're out there holding their daughter, you know, trying to figure out how they're gonna pay for their funeral? Did you come out there, not even when the situation going on, just in general? Hello, citizen, how can I help you? What is going on? What are your concerns in your neighborhood? No, absolutely not. But you quote unquote from the streets, whatever.
Yeah, that is something that we don't really see as much as we want our politicians doing. It's like they set themselves up on a mantle. They're the politicians, and that they leave the community to be fixed by the community itself. Like, a good example would be Ms. Nina over at the Hampton Roads Black Caucus, which recently helped alleviate, or at least has done some good work on the Kimsville baseball team situation in Virginia Beach. And that's something we're wondering why there's a lot of silence regarding our politicians. So if there's such a thing had happened in Portsmouth, would you have expected DeAndre to be there doing it himself? I don't know.
Yeah. I would expect all of them on there to be at the school, whichever school had did this. Or else I'm looking at you side-eyed. Say something. But I know you talk to the lawyer first. I know you got to talk to the lawyer first. But at least say, lawyer, I got to say something soon. Tell me what I need to say safely. But don't silence. Silence
Exactly.
agreements.
Exactly. Mr. Sergio, do you have any questions regarding whatever wing he might fall on in terms of the voting blocks, like the teamwork that he does on council?
So, you know, we saw what happened to his last partners on council, what happened to the half of his partners on council, the last two, or one of them, you know. And let me keep it real, because one of them felt like I was really attacking him too, and I had to keep it real, bro. You keep claiming you from the streets, you from the hood, da da da, but when it comes to real life action, you know where to be found. You know, you talk that good game, whatever. He needed to go. The other one was already established in the community. You know what? You know, whether he was doing it just because to add something else to his resume, whatever, I don't know. But I can say that from the people I've connected with in Portsmouth, that particular person, his name came up as one that was really about action. But they manipulated him for his influence and then sold him to the wolves when it came to election season. You know, He's hitched his wagon to somebody that has been convicted of fraud. Let's keep it real. You hit your wagon to somebody that's a convicted felon, that's real live been convicted by a jury of his peers of fraud. And you think that's gonna come across as okay? That you think that, oh, your influence that has come from somebody that has beat the quote unquote beat the system? Absolutely not. And you do it, and that person is doing it in a place of worship. That's just called it for what it is. So you gotta think about, you gotta put it in perspective. If he is allowing somebody to play him like that, what is he going to in turn do to somebody else that really doesn't know the system and real life know how the situation is for the reality of it?
Cool. Well, we're nearing up on the 45-minute, 46-minute type of threshold here, so I want to get close to closing out. So let's ask one last question, and that is with Miss Andrea again. Miss Nina is off the screen here, but I think her device needs to reconnect, so she'll be back in a second. So, Mr. Sergio, I'll read it off to you. Let's picture that you are getting ready to be on his staff for his election right now. What recommendations would you advise for Councilman Barnes to win his re-election?
So, again, I think I'm going to make this plain, and I'm going to be very upfront. Before you win any election to any position, whatever, make sure your own personal situations are straight before you go and try to represent a city. And because and let's call it for what it is, because accountability knows no boundaries, right? Accountability is a 360 window. It goes all the way around. But it starts within. That's where it starts, within yourself. So before he thinks about being reelected, he needs to clean up his own situations, make right with those that he knows he owes before he represents anybody's city, anybody's state, or anybody's nation.
Would you share the same thoughts, Miss Nina?
So look, I love your wife, Andrea. I love you, but why would I tell him how to win elections? I want him to quit. Withdraw your name. But I love you, Andrea. Love you.
Well, in that case, I think we're getting ready to wrap up our thoughts on the accountability series specifically for Councilman Barnes. So I want to give you thanks, Mr. Sergio, Ms. Nina, because I want to bring you on the next time I bring on someone who is of Portsmouth volition. For instance, a lot of challenger candidates too, like Lalonde or Bryant. I see a lot of names up at my favorite place is the Kroger on Frederick. So that's where I see a lot of signs. If I bring them on incumbents as well, I want you guys to come on as well so we can ask them to great Portsmouth ideas. What do you say about that?
I think that's good. I think it's good. Hey, Conrad, I did have one question. I want you to check DeAndre and ask him. What makes him think it's okay to put his sign in the Kroger Marketplace parking lot when he has zero permission to put his sign there? And I know that for a fact. His sign is not supposed. That is privately owned property, and he did not get permission to put his campaign sign in that parking lot.
And you're referring to the sign that we can't account for how it was paid for.
That is correct.
Yeah. He probably gonna say he ain't put it there. Somebody else did.
Which is weird because there's so many politicians who have their signs taken away and they don't know who did it. So he would be one of the first who get signs put up and not know who did it. So
well, he's gonna be like, I don't know who did it.
In any case, I definitely want to thank you, Ms. Nina, and Mr. Sergio for coming on the Community Accountability Series. We're going to do more. And of course, I want to make sure all you watching on SchezzWho subscribe to this channel, comment, make sure that the next time the accountability series shows up, you're participating as well, because I'm going to bring this to Chesapeake. I'm going to bring this to Norfolk. I'm going to bring this to Virginia Beach, Hampton, and Newport News, and make sure that citizens who are in those cities are able to address their candidates as well. So hope you guys have a great night. I'll catch you next